Yeah, I love talking about Joy Hour. It is a great event we do, and it's spreading across the country. The Joy Hour is creating a culture of connection. In a sober environment, we have all kinds of events and activities, but it really is creating a culture of connection. Our focus is addiction prevention, also addiction recovery, mental health, hope, and healing through connection. If you'd like to get involved, please go to theconsiderategroup.com/Joy Hour. Well, welcome to the Joy Hour podcast show today, Bryce.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, excited to have you here and talk about our getting to know each other. It's been a year.
We know each other.
Yeah, I think we do. And I think, what was that? The first time we got together, we started talking some real talk pretty quick. That's what we do. Well, since I know a lot about you, and the audience doesn't yet, start wherever you want. Tell me about yourself.
I'm from a small town in Louisiana. Mom was an alcoholic. Dad wasn't. Not say he wasn't there, but he worked overseas, I'd see him maybe about a month out of the year, intermittently. A lot of chaos, I guess, right? So my mom worked 3 jobs. She's an alcoholic, so 2 were in a bar room.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd spend, Monday, Tuesday with my mom. Wednesday I was at my grandparents because Wednesday was Dart League night, and then Thursday I'd be back with my mom. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back at my grandparents. So my grandparents really raised me. My grandfather's my father. Kid doing kid things, but not much parental guidance,
Right.
And things got out of hand. Started drinking at 9, 10, smoking weed at about 13, 14, and then just progressed very quickly from there. At about 14, I'd say, 13, 14, my dad decided he was going to come home for a bit, and he moved back from Texas. I was getting a little out of hand, so I moved in with him. He's an oil field guy, completely different person now. Great dad now.
Yeah.
At the time, not so much, He didn't know how to handle his anger, so we had words, we had times, By 16, I was on my own, Got kicked out of school at 17 for smoking weed. Caught a possession charge. Graduated through alternative school.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was off to the races.
Yeah.
Yeah. Started experimenting with other drugs at about 15. Opiates and acid, mushrooms,
Mm-hmm.
coke, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, weed, Xanax, and opiates were my thing. It wasn't too bad, though. It was manageable.
Right.
Right. We have those periods of manageable.
Yeah.
And it was cool. I could smoke weed or do my little coke in the morning, eat a couple Xanax, go to work, have a good day, whatever. Get off, girlfriend, friends, whatever.
So functional.
Functional.
Yeah.
Completely functional. Then I got a big boy job. I was 19, I think, got hired on, headed out to Texas. The lady said, pack your life. I said, all right. So I packed everything I had in my truck and drove out. She was right. I was out there for a year and a half, the first hitch.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing good, steady girlfriend. We'd been together 5 years at the time, 6 years, something like that. Wasn't really smoking, doing a lot of drinking, but that was just kind of the oil field life, right? We'd get up at 5, work till 6, 7, drink all night, barbecue, do it all again the next day.
Wow.
And it was fun for a while. And then February 7th of 2014, I got up. We had just gotten an apartment because I figured I was going to be there for another year and a half, 2 years. We just got an apartment. I drove to the gas station, parked my truck, hopped out, got some cigarettes at the gas station, got in the work truck. We went next door to get breakfast at Subway. Got my food, sat down in the truck, and I got a call from my cousin. It was probably like 6:30 in the morning. My cousin's 25 at the time. She's not up at 6 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I answered. I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And she's like, "Hey, I got some news. I just need you to, just need you to sit down." I was like, "What's up? What's going on?" I'm at work. You gotta, She was like, "Your mom died this morning." And that was it, man. From there, it gets kind of choppy, right? I don't even think I said goodbye. I hung up the phone. I was kind of speechless for a second. I said, "My mom died. I have to go." I grabbed my backpack, jumped out, ran to the gas station next door, hopped in the car. It's maybe a 5-minute drive down the road to the apartment. By the time I walked in the door, I guess she had called her too, because she was already crying and freaking out. I was like, "Just get a bag together. I got to leave now." She was like, "I'm coming with you." I was like, "All right." We hopped in the car, drove. I was probably, 45 minutes into the drive. I was going about 95 down I-10, and a cop pulled me over. I didn't even give him time to get out of the car. I hopped out, threw it in park, hopped out, and he jumped out real quick. I was like, "Look, if you're going to write me a ticket, write it now, write it fast. My mom just died this morning. I got to get back to home, Louisiana." He said, "Give me a second." He hopped in his car. He hopped back out. He said, "Keep it under 85. I said, "All right." She wouldn't let me drive back, so she hopped in the driver's seat. She drove us back. And then, I didn't drink throughout that entire process. I didn't get high. I didn't do anything, that entire week. I was there for my family, which is one thing I could say I handled pretty well, right?
Right.
But I was kind of in a haze. Like, it wasn't real. It wasn't real.
Mm-hmm.
Made all the funeral arrangements. Did all that. I think it was 5 days later, we buried her. And then it sunk in,
Mm-hmm.
Like, my mom was my rock. Alcoholic or not, she was my best friend. She's who I go to for anything. I didn't have anybody else, you know what I mean? Like, it was me and her. And, it was hard. I felt like I lost everything. My ex's idea to move to Baton Rouge was about a 2.5-hour drive from home, so we got an apartment out there. Had some life insurance money come in. I had some money saved, and I tried to be good for a week.
Mm-hmm.
We went out one night and we got drunk at a bar, and we came back, and we came through the door, and I don't even remember what was going on, but I seen my mom's 38 right there on the dining room table. I picked it up, and I was going to do it. She hit me, and then it discharged. Got it on the table. I ended up busting out a glass door. My hands were all cut up. I was in a bad way, man.
Yeah.
Passed out, and then she was like, "You gotta get help." I was like, "I don't need help. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'll be all right. I mean, my mom just died. What do you expect, right?"
Right.
It just grew, right? I said I'd get a job. I got a job at Lowe's. Met a guy. Went to a party. Met some other people. I knew Xanax would make me stop feeling, right? So my intention was never to sell, you know what I mean? Like, I was only selling to supply myself.
Right.
I found a guy that I could buy thousands at a time, and I could buy them cheap. So that's what I did. And as soon as I went back into that life, that's what I did in my teenage years, right? Selling, using, just enough to supply myself. This was much larger. She had enough. She was like, I can't do this. I'm out. All right, well, now I lost 2 of my constants.
Wow.
And I was off to the races. Those friends that I met at that party, from that night until a year and a half later, never left my house. I had live-in people that sold drugs for me, and we got high. That's what we did. Everything from coke to crack to meth, Xanax, acid, mushrooms, you name it. I had it because they kept people around, you know.
Yeah.
As long as we were getting high, there was somebody there. I didn't have to be alone with myself. Yeah. It was bad. Started going to music festivals. I did a lot of cool things, right? I drove. So they had my mom was EMS. She quit the bartending jobs. She sobered up for a bit. I forgot to say that when I was 14, I gave her the option. I was like, look, it's me or the booze, right? I can't do it anymore. Like,
Right.
My life as a child was a constant party. There were always people in my house. We were always barbecuing, drinking. Something was always going on. I just had enough. My mom cleaned up. She got her EMS, and then she got her paramedic, and she was doing good. So they were having this memorial, I guess, kind of thing, and I didn't know about it. I had bought me and 5 other people tickets to a music festival here in Washington,
Right.
out at the Gorge, Paradiso. Nobody told me about the memorial until like Tuesday. I was supposed to leave Wednesday to drive 3 days to be here for Friday. Well, the person that called me berated me, you know, you're a piece of you need to be there. Well, your mom doesn't mean anything to you and all this stuff, and I just couldn't do it. So I just started eating Xanax. I ate Xanax that entire night. I don't remember those 3 days. So
As you were driving.
well, that was Tuesday. I was at the mall when it happened. I got home. I remember being at home for maybe an hour, and then I blacked out. I rented a car that next morning. I have pictures. I don't know how they rented me a car. Enterprise should. Jesus. My eyes were basically closed. I was smashed. And I drove from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to about Denver before I came out of a blackout.
Wow.
I came out of a blackout with the steering wheel in my hand driving. And I looked around and I was like, where are we at?
Wow.
What's going on? And they were like, dude, you tried to fight us when we took the steering wheel. I was like, you should have fought me. You should have knocked me out and put me in the back, man. Like, what?
Yeah.
You trusted your life with me driving? Come on, guy.
Wow.
But, yeah. And so we drove up. We had a good time, but it's the cycle, right? Something bad happens. I get
Yeah.
where I forget it.
Yeah.
And that was the next, I don't know, 5 to 7 years, right? Like, I couldn't deal with not having her there, you know. That was the key that just, like, pushed me over the edge. AA, they have the whole, you're a cucumber until you're pickled, and then you're a pickle, you can't go back to a cucumber.
Mm-hmm.
That was my pickling moment, you know.
Right.
I tried rehabs before. I've been to everywheres from Passages in California, you know, big multi-million-dollar rehab in Lionel Richie's house or something. It was nice. It was cool. Didn't get me sober. They actually kept me pretty high while I was there the entire time. Dude, I'm telling you, they
Yeah.
feed me Klonopin while I was there the entire time. And
Wow.
I'm not trying to get sober, you know. I'm
Right.
still on the party, so I'm like,
Right.
yeah, cool. All right, we're good. 3 times a day, let's go.
Oh,
But
man.
you know, I've been from there, the multi-million-dollar rehabs, to everything in between, all the way down to a prison rehab, and that's what got me sober. You know,
Mhm.
and I had to go to that one 5 times before I had enough, man. You know, there's a lot of in between that's missing, but it's all the same thing, right? Like, opiates got too bad, they got too expensive. You know, I've robbed Peter to pay Paul. and then robbed Paul, and there was no Peter, you know. I leave town because there's too many dealers that I owe, and then go do it all again somewhere else, you know. Pills got to be too expensive, so I flipped to heroin, got into needles. You know, I was on needles for quite a few years. I used to have tracks that were like, all my hands were tracked out, my arms were tracked out. Louisiana's hot, right? It's 120 degrees in the summer, but I'm in a hoodie. I haven't showered in a week. You know, it was pretty gnarly. I went to this rehab in Baton Rouge. So I was staying with this girl, and she loved me, and I don't know if she was just oblivious to what was going on, but I mean, I spent all day doing heroin in her house. She claimed she had no idea. But I took her car one day. I was going to pick up some dope, or I just picked up some dope, and I was fixing a shot on a bridge, and I looked down to, like, you know, stick, and didn't notice the car in front of me stopped, and I ran into somebody in front of me. So we pull off at this little restaurant. It's right at the top of her neighborhood too. We pull off at this little restaurant, and the girl walks up, and I went to high school with her, and I was like, "Can you just say it was a hit and run and I'll leave?" She's like, "No, what are you talking about? You just hit my car." I was like, "All right." So we sat and waited for the police. I finished my shot and just sat there and waited. I thought I was going to jail, you know, at least whatever. Cop walked up. He's like, "Why'd you ask her to leave?" I was like, it's not my car, and I didn't want to deal with it. To be honest, I'm going right there. It's whatever. He wrote me a ticket and sent me on my way. I was like, this is insane, dude. Well, we get back to her house. The bumper's a little messed up, and she lives with her parents. Her dad's furious, whatever. She's like, "You got to go for a while." I was like, "I ain't got nowhere to go." I'd met a dealer, I guess, that I was getting some heroin from at the time. I went to stay with him in a trap house. It's not a fun time. Got on some meth, and thought I was seeing God and stuff, and I got back to her house. I was like, "Look, dude, I can't do this anymore. I had enough. Like, I'm done. I can't. I'm seeing shit. I'm hallucinating. I'm in psychosis. I can't get enough dope." I was shooting about 7 grams a day of heroin. I couldn't get enough to not be sick. So I called a buddy of mine, and I was like, "Hey, dude, I need help, and I don't know what to do." He was like, "I'll call you back in 10 minutes. So he called somebody that we used to know from back when we were teenagers, and he got sober then. So Duncan reached out to me, he called me, he got me into a place called St. Christopher's in Baton Rouge. I went there and did 30 days, and I'm good. I can go back home. And my counselors were like, "Dude, you're not going back home." I was like, "Well, I can't stay here, dude. Like, I lived in Baton Rouge. I know everybody here. This is easy. Like, I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
If I leave right now, I'm going to get high." But he's like, "Your insurance ran out. So you've had too many rehabs. They're not paying for anything else.
Right.
28 days, you're done." I was like, "I guess I'm done then." They found me a place called The Ranch out in Desert Hot Springs, California. I was like, "Sounds cool. You know, it's a ranch. It's in California. Last time I went to California, it was a multi-million-dollar place. I kicked it in a nice bed and hung out. They fed me Klonopin.
Right.
I ate steak and shrimp. It was great. This was not that.
Right.
This was a place in the middle of the desert. The closest gas station was like 3 miles away. You had to walk through the desert to get there. It was hot. They put me on a plane. My dad gave me a carton of cigarettes and $40 to buy another carton when I got there. I got to Atlanta airport. I went to the bar to smoke a cigarette because that's the only place you could smoke in the airport. As soon as I sat down at the bar, I took that little 30-day chip and I put it on the bar, and I was like, whatever. pushed it up and said, hey, I need a double shot of Makers, no ice. And I drank until my plane took off. I almost missed my plane because I got drunk. Ran, got on the plane, and when I got there, me thinking they're not going to notice, they're like, bro, you smell like a brewery. Did you only drink on the plane? I was like, yeah, that's it. Nothing else. They're like, here's your drug test. Here's your alcohol test. Cool, I'm going to bed, guys. You got a bed for me? It was different, man. It was real people, right? So
Yeah.
these aren't people that have money. These are people on there, they have nothing. This is a state-funded rehab.
Okay.
You know, call the CARES line to get in. If you got California insurance, you get in free. They took me in on a scholarship bed.
Mm-hmm.
My bed was paid for by them. They took me on somebody else's word. I did 45 days there, met a lot of good people that I still call friends today. Didn't stay sober. I met a guy. I moved into a sober house after. I did 2 months in a sober house, got a job, was working. Had a guy up in NorCal that had got out at the same time. Thought it'd be a good idea for two newly sober people to go live together.
Right.
We were drinking within a month, and then, you know, he kept drinking. I was going to take Uber to a bar one day, and I got in the Uber, and the guy was like, hey, my girlfriend sells Xanax. I was like, hey, that's a weird thing to tell somebody, but I'm down, you know? Hey, you picked the right guy on the right day.
Oh, man, that's how it is.
And I was off to the races again. His girlfriend also had black tar heroin. First time doing that. Got hooked up, ran for a little while, and then I was like, dude, I'm back here again. Tried to get into the ranch again. They were full. Went to a different rehab. Did 90 days there. Got out. Met a girl. Same old story. Met a girl. She smoked weed. I was like, I can smoke weed. No big deal.
Right.
It's just weed, right?
Right.
We're not.
Always the,
Well, started smoking weed, and it was cool for like a month. None of my friends that I'd met, or none of my sober friends wanted to, you know, because, I mean, I'm using in their eyes, which they're right. So I'm isolated, smoking, and she's like, let's try something else. I was like, all right. So I hit up a guy and got some oxys, what I thought was oxys at the time. We did it, had a great time. Still had a couple left over. I got off work the next day. I brought her some food at work. We lived with her parents. Went back to the house. She was supposed to be getting off in about half an hour or so. You know, I went to the backyard. It was cold outside. I sat down. I lit a cigarette. Chopped up half of one on my phone. I did it, and that's all I remember. They thought I was sleeping outside because it sounded like I was snoring, you know. So they came out and were going to video it, waking me up, scare me. I was dying. I'd OD'd. My face was completely blue. They called EMS. They got there in time. They brought me back in the hospital. It was, yeah. Her parents were like, can't do that. Y'all got to go.
wow.
Y'all got to get out of here. You think that would stop somebody, right? Like, you just OD'd, you died, they brought you back. It didn't. Just kept running. We were supposed to leave for Louisiana to come visit my family in a couple days. We did that. I spent probably an hour with my family. We spent the rest of that time running from dealer to dealer here, getting high. Got back there, found a place with another friend. Spent that time getting high. She had had enough at that point. She was like, I'm done. I can't do this. I was like, cool. All right. Well, I'm not.
Yeah.
She went off to rehab, and I was like, maybe it's time I go too. Called the ranch. They took me in, and I don't know what happened. I don't know what was different. I really don't. I'd seen the same faces again. They had a counselor there. His name's Johnny. He saved my life. Great guy. He's an asshole. He's an asshole. He just tells you how it is, you know.
Right.
He's like, "Oh, you're back again." I was like, "Yeah, but I want you. I don't want anybody else." He's like, "I won't take you. You're not serious." I was like, "Johnny, I'm done. Please." He took me, and I did 30 days. I was getting antsy. He's like, "It's time for you to go." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "It's time for you to go. Call somebody to come pick you up. Grab your clothes. Get out of here." I was like, "Really? Just like that?" He's like, "Bro, what are you going to learn? How many treatment centers have you been to? You're either done or you're not. If you're going to go back out, go back out. Try not to die. I'll see you when you get back." I was like, all right, I guess I'm done. Called my sponsor. He came pick me up. I went back to his house for a couple days, got a ticket, flew back to Louisiana, and been sober ever since. I don't know what was different. I've been homeless. I've been, it's been a crazy ride, and I just had enough. I got back here. I called St. Chris, and I was like, "Hey, are you guys hiring?" And they're like, yeah, actually." I was like, "Cool. I'm gonna come put an application in." I put an application in, did an interview, got hired. I worked at St. Chris for a couple months. That's where I met Ashley, and you could tell I was freshly sober, right? I think you know. Me and Ashley got married 45 days after meeting each other.
Wow. Yeah.
It seems impulsive, and it's not going to work, right? But here we are 4 or 5 years later, and still going strong, 2 kids later. But yeah, it's me in a nutshell, you know.
Beautiful family.
Yeah, man. Those kids saved my life. She saved my life, right? Like, the meetings are cool. The meetings are great. I did the AA thing for a while. I had sponsors. A sponsor. I had sponsees. I still have a sponsor. I call them, check in. I had sponsees, give them back. And they're cool. I don't want to knock meetings because that helps a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And I like going every now and then. I haven't been to one in probably 3.5 years now, but it's not where I'm at today, right? Like, the connections I have are what keeps me sober. My wife, my kids, I have a purpose now, right? Like, I want to be 50 or 60 and say my kids have never seen me drunk or high.
Yep.
My kids have never had to live through that. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm at. That's what means the most to me. My wife has never had to see me drunk or high.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like the person I am when I am.
Yeah.
So they definitely won't,
Right.
And I don't ever want to do to my kids what was done to me, right? Like, life wasn't easy as a kid. Kids are supposed to be happy and carefree, not, worried about that kind of stuff. And my kids will never have to worry about that. God willing.
That's right. I believe it.
Huge shout out to Zekon. They are doing amazing things to help us, and they will help you. For more information, hit here.
I believe it. I think of your boy running through the puddle there last time we had that outdoor joy hour at the park, and watching him just run through the mud puddle. What was that, 20-30 minutes, and he still didn't want to stop. It's pouring down rain. He's just running through the puddle. Right. But his dad was
in the world.
His dad was right there. You were standing right there, and you're there. You're intentional, and I know you're gonna continue to do great with being a dad, being a husband, and I know in my own life you have sat there and talked with me and listened to me, and we worked together for quite a few months there in construction together, and yet it wasn't really the construction I think that we bonded for. I mean, got some jobs, did some jobs. It was what it was. But I think it was a time in my life, and still is, that I need you to share your story with me. I learned stuff just now in the last few minutes, and I'm like, I never knew that about you. And that's what I believe this world really needs, is to break those generational curses that a lot of us have had. What does that look like? If there's been a grandpa, a dad, and a son that just continue to do this over and over, at what point does it break, and how? And how yours broke, like you just said, is 4 years ago or so. It was the last time you went to rehab, and it worked, but it didn't work on the first rehab or the second rehab. It took some different things in your life to get there. The bottom line is you're alive. We have a thing, as long as there's breath, there's hope. And
I mean, I've been brought back in a hospital, I think 5 or 6 times, and every time I wake up, like, again, why?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you couldn't just let me die?
Right.
Like, you couldn't just let this end, you know?
And the purpose is what I want to touch on too, is your purpose is to break that generational.
And now I thank God every day that
Yeah.
I didn't die in that,
Wow.
you know? Yeah. I thought about you the other day.
Yeah. Hopefully it's good.
It's always good. It's always good. No, the being present, right?
Right.
Thought about those Joy Hour boxes, putting your phone in, and because I was noticing myself, catching myself, right?
Yeah.
I'm sitting on the couch on my phone. I'm not doing anything important,
Thank you.
right? Like I'm scrolling TikTok, or I'm
Right.
playing on Facebook or something, right? And Waylon's right there playing with dinosaurs. Play with me, play with me, play with me. And all I'm wanting to do, okay, yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there. And, oh, it's time to take a shower and go to bed. Here, you want to go play? All right, go take a shower, go to bed. I'm not present, right? So I've been making it. I put my phone on the counter when I get home. I try to keep it on the counter. Work calls, I'm at home.
Right.
So I'm trying to be more present with them.
Love it. The
Yeah,
Connect box
that's the
right
box.
there, man.
There it
And,
is.
the other night my wife kind of got onto me about it too. And she's like, what's this stuff you keep talking about to people, and yet you have your phone in your hand at the dinner table? Like, oh. I don't I don't believe that in life we ever arrive at this perfect balance of, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, where like everything's just perfect for years. I might have a great month, I might have a great week, and all of a sudden I'm like, man, my marriage is great, but my health. And also my health is great, but my marriage. And it's just this constant balance that we have of like,
It's an everyday thing.
yeah. And
Sometimes it's minute to minute, sometimes hour to
Yeah.
hour, sometimes you get a couple days, and it's great.
right.
But it changes, it ebbs and flows.
Mm-hmm. Glad you brought that up. It wasn't on my mind right now, but as a father that we are, these are the years. How old are your kids now?
Waylon's 3, and then the other one's 4 months.
3 and 4 months, and mine are 8 and 13 and 16. But every moment's precious, and to live in the moment and to truly listen when they're talking, listen when they're laughing, listen when they're crying, and to be super engaged with their life, it takes being intentional and saying, you know what, this thing's got to go. Put it in a box, put it in a drawer, put it in the other room, all the above, because right now, like, this is a moment I'll never get back. I read again the article that pops up quite often. Steve Jobs, talks about how when he died at 56, of course, but he said basically, I'm a billionaire. I've reached success in business, the dream, but yet I've had little joy. And he goes on to talk about regrets. And I think there are so many people that are going to hit that 70 or 80 or 90 years old and go, what in the world did I do? I got 10 million in the bank and my kids don't even want to talk to me, or just for what? Like, how important is business? How important is money? How important is if you get out of balance and lose that connection with your son? And all of a sudden you get stressed and maybe you're drinking, and so you're with your son, but you're not with your son. You're not engaged, and you can't really engage unless you're sober. And so I'm just so proud of you, man. I'm 2 years behind you. I'm never going to catch up because we're both going to keep going, and that sober count's going to go further. But I'm always going to be 2 years behind you. And man, we just keep doing this and talking to other men and saying, hey, if it's one day, bro, good for you. Awesome. You got one day, bro. Let's celebrate. Here's a coin. I got you. I'm going to call you tomorrow. You're going to call me tomorrow. Hey, and being there, because we know those first weeks a lot of times are the hardest, and months are still. I think when you go through a year, when you've truly hit every holiday, every birthday, every trigger day, there's a little bit of I made it through every single trigger day. My dad dying, your mom, those are dates you'll never forget that day. And people walk up to me and say, Happy Father's Day. I'm like, bro, this is the worst day of my year. It's been 6 years and I still don't want to hear Happy Father's Day. I don't. It's not a great day, but yet it's usually church day and everything, and everybody's like, here's a Father's Day gift. I'm like, I'm not okay. I'm making it 1 minute at a time, and there's a store down the road that has something that I'm not going to go drink, and so that's always going to be there. But I want to encourage the men that might watch this podcast that if you can just 1 minute at a time say no to the alcohol, 1 minute at a time say no to the drugs, and don't let your mind ever say, oh, it's just marijuana, because that marijuana is going to turn into meth. Next thing you know, you ain't going to be a dad, you ain't going to have a marriage, your business, it's going to fall apart every time. It's going to take you to the hospital. What do they say? Institutions.
Jails, institutions, and death.
Every time.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, there was, in the beginning, there was times where I'm like this, I'm sitting like this, Mm-hmm. It's all I can do to not, right? And that's the times that I'm on the phone, right? I got to call somebody. I got to talk to another person that understands, right? Somebody like me that's just, they're going to get me through it.
Yeah.
That's what we do,
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thankfully, I haven't had those times. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a couple of years, but
it does
it happens, right? Like they say, getting to 1 year is the hardest, and then 5 years is your next hardest, where people tend to relapse, and then 7. I feel like you made it, and you're just all right.
Yeah.
I forgot.
One drink.
Yeah. I forgot the pain, right?
One little edible, one little joint.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times I've convinced myself that I can smoke weed. I love weed.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
It's.
Give me some munchies
Yeah,
man, give me a good comedy.
I could smoke a joint at home and just, chill on the couch, hang out, watch TV, eat some chips, whatever.
Yeah.
It's great. But doesn't work for me.
No.
It doesn't. I end up with a bag every time. Every single time.
Yeah.
I've tried it every which way. I've tried just smoking weed, just drinking, just snorting coke, just shooting a little heroin.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit.
I can control it. I used to buy whatever that was, a chunk. I don't know the terms. I just said, give me a chunk, but there was a time at one point, I think it would last like a month. I was kind of a microdoser there. So it'd last a long time, and then of course it'd last a week, and then it'd last a couple of days or something. But I remember every time I'd go a little bit without or something, okay, I'm good now. I can get it. I'll put it in my safe, but I'll wait till I'll wait till this weekend, and I'll just do a little bit on Friday. Bro, the second I got it, like within.
Hey, look, you made it to the weekend.
No,
it never hit the safe. It never
right.
Anywhere from out of my pocket.
It's crazy, man, how it is with a lot of us, and I think the word addiction, what I've seen change in my life, what I hear in yours is, I'm addicted, or you could say committed, to being the best dad I can be.
Yeah.
I'm committed and addicted to reading more books to try to really be the best husband I can be, to listen to another podcast that's going to, and so I've taken all of that energy, and instead of saying, well, I'm sober, I'm now just going to stare at the wall. No, I'm going to just man, I live every day like it's my last. I go to cemeteries a lot, I go to hospitals, but to be an awareness of like, how does my son see me today? How does my wife see me today? And I'm not saying like I hit this like perfection, you don't think you ever get there, but like, oh, check, I haven't been present with this relationship with my wife. She's talking and I'm not listening, I'm on my phone. Or hey, my son, he keeps saying he wants to play catch, and I keep scrolling my phone, and I keep watching Netflix, and my poor son, he wants to play catch, but I'm tired, I've been working all day at traffic, and all these things, whether it's addicted to meth, or it's addicted to Netflix, or it's addicted to social media and scrolling, or addicted to anything that's going to inhibit where my relationships could be. The reason you and I got so close is we have real talk. I don't think once we've ever talked about, the weather, politics, or sports, or, we just jump right in and talk about the real stuff.
I can't do small talk.
Yeah, and that's how
It
a lot of
feels,
we learned
it
it.
feels dumb, right?
Right.
Like, let's talk about what matters,
Right.
or let's just don't.
Right. Yeah. How's your mental health? I met an 82-year-old man last week, and I was talking to him about this, and he lost his wife December 19th, 11 years ago. She died in his arms, and he's telling me the story, and he's crying. I'm crying. I just met him. And he said, what I ask people, Tom? I said, what's that? And he said, I ask him, how's your now? And the way he said it, I was like, say it again. He goes, how's your now? How you doing, bro? Right now, today. How you doing now? Yesterday's yesterday. Tomorrow, we don't know. But how you doing right now? It was just the way he said it was so sweet. 82-year-old man, and he lives by himself, and so I invited him over to some things we do, some men's breakfasts and things like that. He's lonely, and I think overall that's what a lot of the world is facing. Whether they're living by themselves and single in his case, whether it's the teenager that's got 1 million followers but no real friends, is loneliness. Like, bro, like we're more connected now than ever, but we're freaking lonely because a lot of people don't dive in deep and go, how you really doing?
This thing's not connection.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just not.
Yeah.
Right.
Back in the box.
COVID hit, and
Yeah.
they shut down meetings. I was freshly sober.
Mm-hmm.
They shut down meetings. They shut down everything. Given it was Louisiana, it was a little different.
Yeah.
Didn't really shut it down, but I had to figure out what worked. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't go to meetings now. There are none.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm calling so we're going fishing. That's what we're gonna do today.
Yeah.
Everything's shut down anyway. Let's go fishing. We're gonna sit there and we're gonna talk.
Yeah.
I have a buddy in Louisiana that we spent every day, just about from when we stopped going to meetings to when I left together. Right, like we go night fishing, and that was my outlet. Like I was fixing to be a new dad. I don't even know how to stay sober, much less how to be a dad. My example of being a father wasn't the greatest, I learned what I could from my grandfather, but I didn't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any kids. He doesn't know what I'm doing, but he's there to listen to me,
Mm-hmm.
and he's there to talk me through it. And he's there to get me through it, and I know one thing for sure, getting high ain't gonna help it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I mean, it's the connection, right? And it's just like the TED Talk with the rat park experiment, That's actually what got me and Ashley together, right? She posted it on Facebook. It was that same TED Talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I commented on it. I said, we're connected in the connectedness of the connection.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then she hit me back, and it's all history from there. But, it's just like that. Like you put a rat in a cage by itself with a bottle of Coke that has water in it, and it's going to take the Coke all day long. Put it in a rat park with 400 other rats, and it's not going to touch it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got connection with other things like it. They leave it alone.
Other people that have real talk that go,
Like,
I got you.
and you look at like Vietnam, right? The war vets came back, they were shunned. Yeah, of course they came back addicted to heroin, and then from a war we shouldn't have been in, and then everybody shunned them.
Mm-hmm.
Of course they're gonna stay addicted, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna contribute to that.
Right.
You come home and you're celebrated, it's a little different. Your family takes you back, everybody takes you back, you're back connected.
Right.
Some of them that had families to come back to were no longer addicted. They just dropped it at that line. They come back and I'm done.
Yeah. This connection. I think of what I learned at rehab, and mine was one time inpatient for 30 days, then outpatient for a few months. But everybody there, you know, when you meet, it's like, hey, what's up? What's your name? Oh, my name's Tom. What's your story? How'd you get here? What's up, bro? Like, it's not like, hey, what are your successes and, you know, what have you...
How'd you get into rehab?
How'd you get to rehab, bro?
Hey, what's your name? What's your DOC?
Yeah, exactly. Tell me about yourself. Let's get real. But then you find that support in knowing, like, I mean, in that 30 days I was there in the inpatient, I probably met 300 people. And it was so good that I had that experience in that I met 80-year-olds and 18-year-olds. I met military men and women. I met business owners. It was so diverse. I'm like, drugs and alcohol, they don't care who you are. They're going to try and take you down. And then it also taught me how to learn from other people's stories. You know, when you sit in those circles, and I do Celebrate Recovery now and still do some NA once in a while meetings, but you think you're all alone, like, okay, I did this and this because of this, and that's why, and whatever, and I lost my dad, and, you know, to me that's the biggest thing in the world, and then I hear this guy over here, and he starts sharing his story. You know, I could make something up, but you know what I mean, his story's way different, but say he lost, you know, his kid got ran over, or his wife got, you know, sickness and or something, and I'm going...
It's not the scenarios that we connect with. It's the pain behind it. It's the feelings that they're the same. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Their kid may have died.
Yeah.
Your dad. You know, I mean, it's the pain behind it.
Mm-hmm. And when you hear those, you know, it makes you feel like at least I'm not alone. I have that pain, similar pain, because now what am I going to do with it? And you know, where I'm at on my almost 2-year mark next week is really diving into deeper, not just recovery, but discovery. Like, what am I going to do with all this? Like, I didn't die, didn't lose my wife and 3 kids. Like, what am I going to do? You know, before when I used to get clean and sober, I just didn't talk about it. I'm just, okay, I'm clean and sober. Like, cool, life goes on like normal. Now what I chose to do, almost 2 years ago now, is I talk about it every day to everybody I can, every chance I get, and wear shirts every time I can to start a conversation, and it's all I talk about almost all the time. People sometimes are like, man, but for me, that is taken away any urge or craving or thoughts. It's really helped know, like, and I think that's what step 12 is. You know, when you work down, now that I've had this spiritual awakening, I strive to take it to everybody else and talk about it, you know, and
Being of service.
Being of service, right. And in doing that volunteer and service work takes me outside of myself and my current problems, because this year's been tough. Probably one of the worst financial years I've had in 30 years of business. It's been very challenging. But yet I have more peace and more calm than I've ever had in my life. And I put those two together. 7 years ago was my financial peak. I mean, I had a lot of good things going. And it was my worst year of my life. And now, well, challenges. And bills are still paid. But it's been very stressful this year. But I have this, I just can't even believe how much calm I have. Like, it is what it is. Like, the whole serenity, you know, accept the things that I can't change, and the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You know, get up and go, it's Tuesday, here we go. It's Friday, here we go. Make another phone call, make another, do another email, go to another networking event, get home at 5 o'clock and have dinner with the family, because that's the most important. And the one thing that's helped me, and I think you and I talked on this a few times, but the non-negotiables in life is what also really helped me, is like, Tom, you don't say yes to somebody that wants you to bid their job at 7 p.m. You just don't. Or the old times, like, yeah, I'll meet you at 7, you know. I don't. I'm doing dinner with my family. Like, that is what I'm going to be doing at 6 or 7 or 5:30 sometimes if I'm lucky.
This is my time.
This is what I do.
My family.
Right. Sundays, I made a decision. I don't care who calls and says, I got an opportunity for you at 2 o'clock. Can't do it. Sunday's my family, church day.
Call me on Monday.
Yeah, that's what I do. But boundaries, that's the other word.
Yeah.
Non-negotiables, boundaries. And you were telling me a lot of this too, like, hey, Tom, you need to do your schedule. And I'm like, schedule? What's that mean? Budget? What's that mean? I was flying pretty, even though I was clean, I was still,
Well, I mean,
you know.
we're still crazy.
Yeah.
Like, our life has been unmanageable.
Right.
You know? It
But now
can still be
managing it.
unmanageable.
Right.
I'm just sober doing it.
Right. So yeah, it's helped, and always learning, always being around guys like you and others that pick up these little things while we talk. Like, what did he say? First time somebody said non-negotiable. What did you say? What's that?
What's that mean?
Everything's
I'll be
negotiable,
there at
man.
10 p.m.
Let's go. We had plans for this, but we're going to the moon instead. Let's go.
Gotta go.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, but no, it's good stuff, man. Joy Hour, you've been to a few times, quite a few times actually. Tell me a little bit, just for a family or a single person, anybody, individual that's never been to a Joy Hour. What are some things they'd see or maybe enjoy?
I mean, I don't really like people. You know that. I don't. I generally don't. I have a disdain for people. But so we don't go out and do things like we're at home. We're homebodies. But
Yeah.
that's obviously not good for a 3-year-old little boy. You know. And dude, he loves it. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm connecting with people that are like me. So it's. I don't want to say an AA meeting because not everybody there is for that, right? But it's people like me in a place that my kid can go play,
Yeah.
right? Like he meets other kids, they have a good time, right? Not only that, but it's like business is connecting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of business owners there that are also like me.
Mm-hmm.
That's you know, it's just awesome.
Other dads that are
Other dads.
having those same thoughts sometimes of balance and challenges, and you get to share those and go, yeah, the economy is down, or hey, you know what, hey, you know what you just said, I actually need that service, or my uncle, he just said he needs what you do. And so yeah, business relationships have spawned out of it. But yeah, I think just that atmosphere has really touched a point where from 2 years old to 92 years old or whatever, it's something
There's just
to do.
not many places that you can go to relax,
Yeah.
like to just sit down, that aren't at your house.
Yeah.
In the same 4 walls that you're always in. That's what it is, right? Like I can go, there's food,
Mm-hmm.
there's families, and I can just go relax.
Yeah.
My kid's gonna go jump in the bounce house, have a
Mhm.
good time. He's gonna play in the ball pit.
Yeah.
I can sit down and breathe for a minute. I can have a conversation with my wife
Yeah.
without a 3-year-old butting in. It's amazing.
I love it. Every time I talk to people, I hear a different thing that it means, and that is the truth. Like, you can go there, and literally, you don't have to talk to anybody. You can sit over at that chair, that bench. You can play cards. You can do art. You can read a book, or you can be in the bouncy house. There's adults in the bouncy house. You could be playing basketball or air hockey. There's a very widespread list of things to do, or you can sit and chill. And with this new venue, new building, it's even bigger. There'll be more seating, a little bit of a quiet area as well. And the goal is just that somebody in that room probably needs you as much as you need them. And that can just turn into, hey, we see each other once in a while at Joy Hour, but because of that, we actually talk every week or every day. I mean, you start up a texting or a calling each other, how you doing, and you become truly connected with somebody that's got the similar struggles and similar things in life that you're going through, but used to feel like they were alone. As you know, the friend of mine a little bit ago, he must have felt alone, and he ended up being alone. And I know you've had many people, I'm sure, that you're connected to that because they were alone and felt alone, they're no longer here. And there's only so much that we can do for each other, but I feel we can do more. I feel we can have more raw conversations about struggles, about stress, about pressure, about failures, about insecurities, about mistakes. It's easy to say, hey, guess what? I bought a house or I bought a car, everybody. Is it easy to say that you just went bankrupt? Is it easy to say you just, dropped the ball and, made bad decisions with your family, or your choices you made were wrong or bad, and now you regret them, but it really happened and you're digging your way out of a mess? Is it easy to say, hey, yay? No, you usually don't celebrate your failures. And we want to have an atmosphere where you can say, hey, on the surface I look great, but like right now I'm not doing good, bro. And that could be one-on-one over in the corner. That could be the next day at coffee because you met a person at Joy Hour. That could be a lot of different things. But the goal is to create a culture of connection where nobody feels alone in their own isolated mind. And it really helps with the mental health of our world. I believe a lot of addiction issues are stemming from bad mental health. It's those hurts and those things that happened at some point in our life Well, we're not mentally okay with them. We think we've got past it, but we haven't, and so we
You
self-medicate.
go into any rehab today, and it's a dual diagnosis every single time, right? It's addiction, but it's also got something else linked to it, whether it be bipolar, depression, anxiety disorder, whatever.
Mhm.
You know, it's 99% of the time a dual diagnosis.
Dual diagnosis, yeah. I did a thing in rehab called EMDR. You hold those two little pulsating.
Yeah.
Bro, that was cool. I'd like to do that again. Actually, I did it twice there. But EMDR, bzz, bzz, right brain, left brain, whatever. And this lady's like, "So what are you thinking about?" I'm like, "Well, I'm in rehab. I'd like to stay sober." Like, it started like that. 20, 30 minutes in, I was back to my 20s, digging up stuff from my 30s and 20s. About 45 minutes in, I'm crying like a baby, like, this or that happened from this teacher or this relative, or just things I won't go into right now, but things in my life. It went from business deals and people stabbing me in the back and financial stresses to all kinds of stuff. And all she kept saying was, "Well, what are you thinking about now? Well, what are you thinking about now?" I'm like, and then I got done. She's like, "How do you feel?" I'm like, "I feel great." Just these two little things. Bzz, 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 bzz. So EMDR, shout out for that if you ever need to dig deep into what you're going through. But we're complicated, but we're simple. And I think ultimately, what really gave me, one of the many things that's given me an extra boost, the Joy Hour is a great option for every community, every city across the world, is the report that came out May 10th from the Surgeon General this year, that America has an epidemic of loneliness. And I just shout that out to everybody I can. Read it. May 10th, 2023, Surgeon General, an epidemic of loneliness. And bro, when I read that, starts out talking about the issues of loneliness and how we're more connected than ever, but we're lonely. We spend $6.7 billion a year on Medicaid specifically for loneliness, how it's equal to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, and he just goes on and on. And at the end it says, one of the last paragraphs says, Murthy's suggestion to help fix and solve this issue is to create a culture of connection through kindness, respect, and service work. And I read that was May 10th. Joy Hour started a year before that. And I'm going, like, that's not an accident. Like,
It's our mission.
That's what we've been doing. Like, we've had 80-something events where we've been creating this Joy Hour culture in Auburn, Washington, and now other cities. But I'm excited to, just be a part of it and for it to continue to grow. But I don't want my neighbor to be lonely and isolated in their life. I don't want my neighbor, even if I haven't met them, to be lonely and overdose or get so drunk they black out, or drunk driving. 3,500 people a day die in car accidents. I don't know how many are drunk driving, but a lot of them. Or, staring at their phone because they're addicted to their phone. Those are causing a lot of accidents too. That's another whole addiction that just is destroying families, destroying relationships, is the phone. And yet we talk about fentanyl all the time, and yet I'm like, well, what about the phones? What about the teenager that can't make eye contact, and now when they're alone, they end their life? Because they felt alone. Like, they don't need that. That shouldn't happen. Like, what are we doing as a world to truly say, hey, I got time in my day. I'm going to do service work to help that 12-year-old. I don't even know who they are, but hey, let's play ping pong. How you doing? Hey, let's shoot some pool. Whatever. Just let them know they're important, they're valuable, they're beautiful, they're handsome, they have a purpose in life, they have a reason for being alive. And even if their relatives are saying they don't, even if they don't have relatives, and whatever their situation, like, we need to speak into their life.
Social media are saying they don't.
Right. But we find those opportunities to say, hey, young man, hey, young lady, it's a nice hat, that's a nice shirt, hey, I like your smile, and it takes a minute. People have this wall for a while, but I have found, and I've probably met, I don't know, say 100 a week for 2 years straight. That's a lot of people. And all of them, we've had conversations about these type of topics. And just want to do more. I think this next step was going to be pretty big. I'm going to need stories like yours, and I'm thankful that you did this and be open, not just on the show today, but in your day-to-day activity, man. Just there's somebody that's looking at you, some boy that's going, look at his son, look at him, look at that relationship. They're walking through the park, or they're at the store, the way that your son looks at you, and he's going, I want to be like that someday, or I want to be like that now, and I'm not. then how do I be a better father? How do I be a better husband? I think it just takes us talking about these things. Take away the stigma of rehab. You tell people rehab's the best thing I ever did. It was awesome. I needed it even without the alcohol and
All
drugs.
9 times.
Yeah, did you 9? I did too. But it taught me a lot about those hurts and anger and bitterness and resentment and expectations. Having expectations of other people, having expectations of my wife, having expectations of my construction company or whatever of other people. So just a lot there. But any other things come to mind? We'll wind it down here pretty quick. But just glad to have you on the show and get to know you better.
Dude.
We'll just keep doing it one day at a
One
time.
day at a time.
Right. Love you.
Love you too, buddy.